Guys, I've been saying some really good things. I didn't realize that I was on mute, but I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce myself. I am Anna Bingham, your favorite Scrum Master. I am a safe coach, senior Scrum Master, staff sergeant in the military, you name it. I'm here to provide information. However, you decide to use the information is up to you, but I'm sharing a page in my diary of my experience of being a Scrum Master. Today's discussion is the hardest part about being a Scrum Master, some of the challenges that I have faced. And I know we always talk about the good things, the impact we make on the teams. But let me tell you, some days you just want to ask yourself, like, do I want to do this? And the hardest part is not the work, it's the personalities that you get to engage with and deal with, and the people. I'm realizing, and I'm 6 years going now, right? I'm realizing that a lot of our work, there's only so much you can do, and there's almost so much you can allowed, right? Because whatever you allow persists. And towards the end of this conversation, I'm going to be telling you guys some of the things that I do to ensure that I stay sane. Okay. So I will say one of the biggest things that I thought coming into this space was, I am going to help the team. And when I get there, I will see results in, a month or two. Not quite, not quite. So you have to be patient. One of the challenges things is that you have to be patient. Whatever you want to help your team do does not necessarily mean that everybody's on the same page and they're going to take it and run away with it. Sometimes it requires you to be just like really understanding, empathetic to their current situation. Not all teams are the same. I have worked with several teams in the past, and what might be good for one team may not be for another team. And it's a continuous learning situation, right? And which is why it's important for us to have a community of practice as such, because when people share their experiences, you get to learn a little bit more than what you would have normally. You get to learn something you would have normally not know, right? If you were not part of this community. So I faced one of the biggest challenges was being patient that just because I came to the team, I've made recommendation, does not necessarily mean that everybody is going to go ahead and implement the action, right? Understand that conflict does happen, but how you as a person address that conflict is going to determine whether or not you stay in that role and on that team, or whether or not you will leave, right? And I would say this: the challenges that do happen were dealing with senior leadership, right? One of the biggest things that we say all the time is like have one-on-one time with team members or with senior leadership, your managers. Yes, it's all good. It's all fun and good until when those one-on-one conversations not going anywhere, right? Then you start thinking to yourself, and that imposter kicks in. Are you not good enough to do this work? Are you like, how come other people have better teams than you? You start thinking about everything besides the fact that this too will pass, right? So not everything that happens on the team is meant to last forever. You just need to be patient. Back to my number one challenge of being patient, right? Trying to help implement change and it's not happening. And then number two, making sure that you're understanding of the fact that not everybody wake up and think about this Scrum agile mindset that we have, right? People want to do as minimum as possible in this space. So something to think about. Another challenge that I have experienced it's also engaging with other Scrum Masters. Like, I know it seems like getting on here, especially like the Scrum Masters that you deal with, you have interdependencies with them. It seems like it's that easy, right? Where you jump on a team or a value stream or a product area, and you have all these resources and people to interact with. But I've had my fair share of just having resistance with Scrum Masters not being responsive to what the requests I needed to drive the work forward, and which has, in turn caused me to make it work, right? How do you make it work? You got to figure out, have expectations set in with those Scrum Masters and the product owners to just so that you guys are on the same page as far as like some of your needs. So that is a couple of the challenges that I've experienced so far. Another one is understanding that not everybody is going to like your idea. We all have this great idea. Sometimes you can say this idea and somebody's like somebody just interrupt and change the topic left or right, wherever they want to go, right? But it's for you to understand that, it's okay. Just because you're giving suggestions, just because you're telling people what you think to be the right way, does not necessarily mean that to them to see it as right, right? So you need to be really on that mindset of I may have ideas and they might not accept it. However, how I respond to it is very, very important. Is very, very important. So I'm going to stop there because I've said a lot of things. And I want to put it back to you guys. One, can you hear me or have I just been talking to myself, which I love to do? And then two, what questions do you guys have? So number one, can you hear me? Number two, do you guys have questions? So leave it in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions to what I just shared so far, then we can move forward. Okay. We can hear you. Thank you. Oh, look at you. I know who that person is. It's just maybe extra smiley. Yes, we can hear you. Oh. I honestly thought that he was like part of the discussion. I had my own fair share of discussion after this stage. You guys can hear me. Okay. Any questions at this moment? As a beginner, what is the greatest challenge? The greatest challenge for you sometimes when you just get into the space is probably understanding this. These are the challenges, right? But it's okay to it being a challenge because it will take you some time to understand the product, right? But some of the challenges that you will need you will experience is domain knowledge, right? Knowing what the product is, the business need, and all of that good stuff. That's one of the things. If you've never used the tools itself, right, like Jira or Trello or Azure DevOps, you name it, whatever tools that they use, you've never gotten a chance to play on it, that can be a challenge because sometimes you will literally go on an interview, not interview, you will literally go on a team. Maybe that first week, somebody's asking you to pull up the board, right? If you've never gotten a chance to experience sharing a screen, that might be a challenge for you, right? The other part too, if you don't have direction from your manager as far as like who to meet, you might get in the space of not knowing, right, who you're supposed to meet and create relationship with. But which is really, it's also counterintuitive too, because then you need to be able to deal with somebody just posted a question now. It's like literally I just forgot the point I was trying to make. Oh, you need to be proactive. You need to be proactive to asking that manager, right? Like who are the most important, who are the people I should be meeting in this time right now, so you understand. The other part too would be developing relationship. Right now, this is where you will need to understand. You're developing a relationship with those individual team members. Some of them are very welcoming. Yes, they want you to be there. Others don't want to talk to you. Don't take anything personal at all. Like, don't take anything personal because it's important for you to ask them how frequent do they want to meet, right? If they say once a month, well, there you go. That's the type of relationship. It means that you shouldn't try to overstep your boundary, right? Give them whatever they're asking, that's what you give. But for the people who are very friendly, engaging, yeah, jump in and, bi-weekly, like, hey girl, or hey guy, or hey, okay, whatever you want to say, right? You will click with somebody on the team. Like this, I feel like every team is the same. They have similar personalities. It's just different individuals that you end up clicking with personalities, and those personalities will absolutely help you significantly to learn what you are lacking, right? If you do use them the right way, right? So that make sure you set that time, one-on-one time. Another thing too, if you're not familiar with some of the terminologies that are in the field, that can be a challenge to you. So I would definitely say the more you listen to podcasts, the more you listen to on Facebook, there's conversations there. This is the question I'm answering right now. On Facebook, there's conversations there. So read through the Facebook community of practice questions, right? And you reading through those people at real people on real teams asking real questions, you'll be able to get insight, right? And also learning the lingo when you get to the space. I hope that answer your question, Salima. Let me know. Okay. Thank you for that. The other one is, how can you educate stakeholders who don't really understand the role of a Scrum Master and think you're not doing enough when they expect us to do is not part of the responsibilities? Um, so there's a couple of things, right? So it depends. So there's stakeholders that are um, part of the organization, and there's stakeholders that are external to the organization. So there's several ways you deal with them, educate them, right? How do you educate them? You put time on the calendar and tell her, hey, I would love to, provide insight as to what my role entails and how I can support the team and how I can support you, right? Like you have to be in a position of you need to insert yourself in that position or be assertive with your role and explaining that role and explaining what expectations look like for you to be successful in that role, right? So I had a stunt. I work at a startup company. When I got there, it seems like, there's this expectations for, uh, like my role was not clearly defined by the ways, right? And so therefore the team members that were there were doing offline work for this stakeholder. And when I went there, I set up a meeting and just because I heard of it from other people, set up a meeting to understand, what his thinking process was and what he thought my role was. From there, I was like, are you open with me educating a little bit more about what I do? And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to, support you in this and blah, blah, blah. Right. And he was like, yeah, sure. I really love that. So we really became buddies after that conversation. But another thing with stakeholders is that sometimes they're heavily involved and sometimes they're very disengaged. So it just depends the type of relationship that you would be setting. And sometimes people say what they say because they don't know what you're doing. So if you bring transparency in what you're doing, it might give them an insight. And you can do that by literally asking them if that's an opportunity to do so. I hope that answered your question. Okay, we're almost reaching our time box here, guys. This talk show, I love it. So can you give an example of how you've dealt with a team member or specifically developer resistant to any changes you propose and insist they know better? So I haven't experienced a developer that was sort of like resistant. And if I was to, this is how I would address it, right? Whoever that person is, that person is going to be my point of contact. Like we're about to be buddy buddy, that's for sure. I would engage. Connect with them on a one-on-one basis, try to build a relationship and learn more about their work. I think sometimes people, when we jump into teams, it's important for us to one, highlight those things that they've done and what they're doing for the team, right? Especially those people that tend to give throwback. Like for instance, I'm going to say, "Hey, Johnny, I saw that you did X, Y, and Z. I really appreciate that, and this is how I was able to help the team. Is that something you can continue doing? Hey, Johnny, I realized that when I post this question, you had a different take on it. what are your thoughts, right? And, how can we bring this back to retrospective and discuss so that we can all be on the same page, right? So I think sometimes people have resistance when they don't know much, right? They're not open to trying new things. And part of using it as an experiment gives them a little leeway versus wanting to change something in general, right? Nobody likes change. So offering an opportunity like, would there be something that will make it be better for you? And if there is, what is it? Right? I tend to like when I jump on a team, nothing that I implement comes from me. Everything that I implemented comes from them. Because when I ask them, what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing? They give me feedback. The next question I ask is, okay, what are some of your thoughts in regards to solving this issue? There's always, I've never gotten somebody who said, I don't quite understand how to, I don't know how to solve this problem. There's always been, oh, let me think about that for a minute. I'm like, yeah, sure, go ahead. They will give me a response, right? And then whatever that response is, it's like, okay, is that something we can propose to the team and try it out, right? Nathan, I hope that answered your question. Let me know. Okay. It is 7:11. Ooh, 7:11. What questions do you guys have? And was this conversation helpful to you? You will deal with some stakeholders that are very, depending on how you deal with them, right? Sometimes the product owner deals with the stakeholder management, but some teams, depending how your structure is, you would have kind of like direct action connection with that product with that stakeholder. So yeah, sometimes people just really have, but you need to come with personality. If somebody is coming with the attitude of negativity, just ask them. I think the biggest part is letting them know that you are willing to work with them, that you have a mission to support them, and whatever it is that you guys want to do, it's not about you, it's about us. How can we? How can we make this better? Because when I spoke to the stakeholder that I, realized that he was giving work um, behind the product owner's back, I just have a conversation and I was like, how can we move forward from here where, the team is only focusing on work that they need to do for that sprint. And if there's anything that you have per se, you can talk to myself or the product owner. Is that something that we can try moving forward just so that the team have some stability and clarity and focus in what they're doing, right? So I think the big part is asking questions and allowing them to be part of that discussion versus just saying, this stakeholder is this, because they're people, they're human beings, their minds can change and we can change that. But sometimes it takes time. We need to be intentionally willing to want to change that for them if we understand the impact that it has on the team. Okay. Another thing, right, that I noticed Scrum Masters do sometime is we're on the team and let's say you propose an idea and then the team is not agreeing with it. You what they say is like, well, based on Agile or based on Scrum, we should be doing X, Y, and Z. Right? Now you want to base it off the framework versus looking at how this will benefit us, right? Like, for example, let's say you guys need to do a working agreement, but then the team is like, we don't have time for a working agreement, or just understand why we do a working agreement. You're like, yeah, I call into Scrum, we should be doing a working agreement. Well, that's not giving them a value of doing a working agreement. If I was to tell them about doing a working agreement and they have resistance, I would just say, I think sometimes when we work as a team, it's important for us to have a unified alignment, right, and a vision, so that way we can continue to, serve each other. And as we move forward, we'll figure out what works for and what doesn't work. And this working agreement will help us in, with the plan to start with, right? And it's always going to change, right? Just because we started it now does not mean that we cannot review it 3 months from now. And if that's something you guys are willing to do, I'm happy for us to try it. Besides, well, we need to do this because that's what it says in the Scrum Guide. I don't know if Scrum Guide says that. That's it. No, I don't think so. So don't be focused on what the Scrum says or what Agile is. or that's not agile, right? Because then it becomes like you're reprimanding people for things that they don't really care about besides you. You were hired to be to help enforce and implement it, but yeah, help them get there. That's the goal. That's your goal. All right, so this was a good conversation by myself and discussion by myself. No, I'm kidding. No, thank you guys for the questions asked in the chat there. If you have more questions, go ahead and ask. But for now, I will sign up from here and go back to Clubhouse. If you're on YouTube and not on Clubhouse yet, I don't know what you're waiting on, because there's so much, tons of resources on YouTube. Not on YouTube, on Clubhouse. There were several different rooms that goes on there. And if you haven't, just plugging myself in there, if you haven't purchased a Day in the Life of a Scrum Master, which is the newest ebook I just released, just make sure you go and get it. If you're a practicing Scrum Master, there's so many things that you can be doing to, impact your team and add value on your team. Don't say you didn't know, because I'm sharing nothing but value to you. Okay, so thank you everybody for staying tuned today. You could be anywhere else, but you decided to be here with me, and I'm not complaining. I'm appreciative. So see you on Clubhouse. Sign up on Clubhouse so we can stay connected. Have a good one, everybody. Peace out. That's it.